just say for the club, it's nice to meet the good ones. Rather than everybody coming out with shots all with it. Surprise! I told you you've been ignoring us for some reason. I tried to figure out how mom did this from dinner theater last week. Oh, is that next week? Oh, yeah, you go through all this. There's 4 lies and I'm trying to remember, you know.
Oh, wait, do that again.
Oh, wait.
Oh, step up, girl. Oh, boy. Look at this down there, Mike.
Well, if you'd like, sit down and relax. Oh, yes.
Oh.
Rain.
All right, you stand here later. They got gray haired people on top of the table.
That's Aunt Ruth's top.
Says immediately turn left. Don't you leave.
Go ahead, finish your
I
conversation.
did, just now. Come here.
How you doing? Good. How are you, sir?
They were thinking that you would see you last night.
No,
TV, yeah.
no.
Gee, this is great.
Yeah, we good, Mike.
These kids, they all lie to me.
Not all.
Oh, no, not my son-in-laws, not my daughter-in-law. They didn't lie. You did wrong. And I
to welcome you all here tonight. There's so many special guests here, friends and relatives of my folks, and you're just so special to them and real special to us. So some of you have really come a distance to be here tonight. We really appreciate that. I just have a short reading. Now, my husband would differ with me. He would say it's a little bit long, but he's not here. He took my son to the bathroom, so I'm going to do it. What a difference 50 years makes. We were before the pill and the population explosion. We were before TV, penicillin, polio shots, antibiotics, and Frisbees. Before frozen food, nylon, Dacron, Xerox, or Kinsey. We were before radar, fluorescent lights, credit cards, and ballpoint pens. For us, time sharing meant togetherness, not computers or condominiums. A chip meant a piece of wood, hardware meant hardware, and software, well, software wasn't even a word. We were before Batman, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Snoopy. Before DDT and vitamin pills, disposable diapers. I'm so glad we have disposable diapers. I'm not glad anymore. I mean, I'm over that, but it was nice. Jeeps and the Jefferson nickel. We preceded Scotch tape, the Grand Coulee Dam, M&Ms, automatic transmissions, and Lincoln Continentals. When we were in school, pizzas, Cheerios, frozen orange juice, instant coffee, and McDonald's were unheard of. We thought fast food was what you ate during Lent. We were before FM radio, tape recorders, electric typewriters, word processors, electronic music, digital clocks, and disco dancing. We were before pantyhose and drip-dry clothes, before ice makers and dishwashers, clothes dryers, freezers, and electric blankets. Before Hawaii and Alaska even became states. We were before Leonard Bernstein, yogurt, Landers, plastic, hairspray, the 40-hour week, the minimum wage. We got married first and then lived together afterward. In our day, grass was mowed, Coke was something you drank, and pot was something you cooked in. We were before coin-operated vending machines, jet planes, helicopters, and interstate highways. In 1935, made in Japan meant junk, and the term making out referred to how you did on an exam. We had fountain pens with bottles of real ink. We had stockings made of real silk, with seams up the back that were never quite straight. We had saddle shoes and cars with rumble seats. We had corner ice cream parlors with fiddle tables and wire-back chairs where we had a choice of 3 flavors. We have indeed come a long way, and yet we seek silence in a day when silence is as rare as a Gutenberg Bible. The man my mother lives with is her husband. And after 50 years, he's still the same one. How wonderful, just as it's supposed to be. This evening, we all honor my mom and dad for weathering the sunny days as well as those inevitable rainy days. We've got one here tonight, but you know what? They were married on a rainy evening.
Was it?
She's got a good memory.
The actual day they were married was May 23rd, 1944. We're so happy they were. We're so happy you're here tonight. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Boy, wasn't that fun? It really gets you reminiscing, doesn't it? We are indeed so glad that you were able to come. We're here to honor our parents, and I can't look at my mother. Wow, 50 years. I just can't even imagine 50 years of living with the same person. Great day, I haven't even lived that long as it is. Of course. I guess that's the way it should be, though. We're going to start this evening by having Ken lead us in the invocation, and so if you would all please rise.
Let's pray.
Father, you're so wonderful, and we have so many wonderful gifts from you. Thank you. Thank you for an opportunity to celebrate our parents, to celebrate parents who are the pride of their children, and not only celebrate 50 years of marriage, but time, and your time, that you've done so much and been working in us and through us. And we thank you for that love and that time with us. Father, just ask that you would bless the food, the fellowship, and our time together. In the name of Jesus. Amen. Please remain standing. My uncle, who was my father's best man, is now going to deliver a toast or offer a toast, whatever you do with a toast. He's going to do it there. This is my Uncle Tom, then, my father's brother.
Okay.
You're welcome, sir.
Greetings, everyone. Please be seated. I have a lot of talking. I was introduced as the best man, and indeed, people, I am. You may sit down. I think Ed should have offered to pray after I got through. First of all, I'm not used to standing back in front of one of these. I have that. At any rate, I want to thank she said, I was asked to participate in this affair, and I was very pleased to have been asked to stand here in front of relatives, friends, church people, all friends of Bill and Marsh. God bless them. They made friends, and they have friends. And I have to reminisce a little bit. I was asked to be best man. And at the time, this was war days. People were going off to war and being prepared to go to war. And these guys had to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find best man. They were all wrong.
Do it nice.
Don't cut that.
Y'all ready? I have a real touch, I really do. Tender. Hey, you guys, there you are.
Sure.
Be nice to each other when you meet each other with cake.
No, I knew that. Now, well, actually, we're just like, somebody saw that picture from the I used to get right in the hand. I see it from the film. That means I have to give that to mother. Okay, and then we'll give you napkins. There you go. Okay. Now I have to get, always I have to give you shots on this. Behave. Let me give you a plate. I do.
Can we sit down?
We'll cut the rest. Yes, in a minute.
Something like that. But I know the Baptist home there, they give you 3 meals a day there.
Yeah, when you get that at the mountain.
Yeah, that's nice there.
But, yeah, this is nice.
I did. Yeah, because I remember I was going to tell you it was around. I wonder how. I haven't looked at her cards and stuff. I haven't looked at it. No, I haven't. Candy can.
Don't you tell them.
The next 50 was going to get a little rocky, had a little rocky stuff.
All right, we'll stay here.
I always get it.
Right.
in the morning on the outside. Yeah,
I'm picking my teeth. You can get me on camera.
the only time I see her is,
Thank
something
you.
like this, or a shower, or maybe a funeral. I haven't seen her for a while. Hi, is that what I'm supposed to do, Stephen?
Just don't say anything that I have to edit, and I just want to run this through and that.
Well, we're in church now.
That's right.
Yes, no. We're always sedate, you understand.
This is a G-rated production.
Oh, well, then the kids can see it. You're standing where
Oh, yeah.
What's with you today is and that rent.
So, we said,
Decide what they're gonna do, and let's go ahead and do it. And everyone else thinks it's their idea.
because Bill Clark, who was already in the Army, didn't take the job. So he wants to be here. Yeah, sure. So then,
If I may have your attention for a moment, please. Mr. Hagberg just said that this is the best part of the program. Maybe, maybe not.
and all the good stories.
At one of our planning sessions, one of my siblings quite insisted that it would be appropriate for us to share some thoughts and memories with each of you about our parents. And I must admit that I voted against that idea because, you see, I'm very savvy. Dean calls it maudlin. Jason and Kendra, well, they just shake their heads when we're watching a movie and they say, well, Mom's crying. So I brought my tissues just in case, and they'll be available. We are going to start not with just each of the siblings, mother and father, but also each of your children-in-law.
Oh.
How do you say that? And so Steve Nicolaitis is going to start.
Good.
In case you were wondering why I was chosen to go first, it was by age that we... Again, from all the children and grandchildren, from Mom and Dad, we would like to thank everyone for coming out and sharing in this joyous event with us today. Originally, when we had planned this gathering and put the agenda together, I was asked by Carol to give the toast. And I was honored, being I was the youngest, and she asked me to give the toast. And then after she thought about it for a while, she said, you know, I have a great idea. We'll ask Uncle Tom. For some nostalgic reason, or she wanted Uncle Tom. Well, I've worked very hard in preparing my toast. And with Mom and Dad's permission, I would like to deliver my toast. If I may. Absolutely. overflowing. We just don't say thank you often enough. My mother-in-law is the most kind and gentle, caring, wonderful mother, grandmother, and wife that someone could ask for. But still, we still don't stop long enough and say thank you. So today I would like to take that time and stop and thank Mom. Thank you for just the way you light up a room when you walk into it. Thank you for Roberta. And just thank you for all the wonderful things that you do for all of us. Thanks. It's probably a good time to ask if you can babysit Saturday. My father-in-law, when you think of my father-in-law, you think of his stern handshake, his booming, cheerful voice. Fathers traditionally personify wisdom, counselor, advisor. I remember Bobby and our wedding day, and at the reception, after all the pomp and circumstance was done and everyone was leaving, and I was sitting at one of the chairs in the back of the room by myself. Out of nowhere, Dad comes walking along and puts his arm around me. And I said, this is perfect timing. I said, here's this guy going to come up and bestow about almost 40 years of marital wisdom on me just like that. So give me all the tips and hints, and he put his arm around me and he said, son, and I thought, this is great. And, Monday I'm going to have all the locks changed on the house. That was the wisdom that he bestowed on me. But if I could just real quickly, one other story. My mother-in-law and I do share a common bond. We're probably the only ones in this room that have seen my father-in-law's dark side. And about 10 years or so ago, Dad was in the hospital. His darling wife wanted to visit him in the hospital. So I picked Mom up and we're driving over to the hospital together, and it was pretty quiet. It was a snowstorm, by the way. It was a snowstorm. It was a pretty quiet ride over to the hospital. I looked over at Mom, and you could she was upset and worried that, is this pillow fluffed well? Is bedpan too cold? Are they feeding him? And of course I was quiet too, because I thought, Carol's bowling, my wife won't drive in the snow, Kenny's home watching a basketball game. I'm going to be on his good side. I mean, I just got married in, I'm not even one relative, and I'm on the hospital. So I figured, I'm in good. So we get to the hospital, and of course, there's no place to park. We parked about 6 miles away, and walked through 3 feet of snow, uphill in both directions to get to the hospital. And we go bouncing through the door. Hi, Dad, we're here. And he turned and he looked at us. What are you two doing here? I didn't ask for any company. Go home. Well, Mom was beside herself. And I'm thinking, good sigh. I don't even know if he asked her. In all fairness to Dad, since that occasion, he's attempted to apologize about 20 times. And I never accepted his apology because I figured if I did, I'd have to stop telling the story. So Dad, today, in honor of your 50th wedding anniversary, I'll accept your apology. Thank you.
Well, I'm the sibling who wanted everybody to get up and talk.
Oh, you didn't have to admit that.
And you wonder about it when the butterflies are flying around. But I do want to thank Stephen a lot. Not so much for his exaggerating that story.
Mom, was that exaggerated?
But just for all the work he did with the photos on the computer and all, I hope you're all enjoying that because it was so much fun just getting those together and in this really neat way to look at them. Just give me a second here. Well, I wasn't there, of course, but I've heard that Bill used to mess up the papers on Margie's desk as he passed by in the office of Horace Teapot Steel Company. Margie would giggle, Bill would laugh. I'll tell you, we got the Clarks. Now, they're good gigglers, too. They keep my folks laughing and giggling. The start of a budding romance, for sure. My mom and dad were married at Allegheny Avenue Baptist Church in Philadelphia. Friends, romance, a time apart while Dad served in Italy during World War II. Then more friends and romance. And slowly, the twinklings in my daddy's eyes started becoming children. The residences in their married life were Mango Street in Kensington, Gardner Street in Philadelphia, which was where I started out, and Harris Road in Dresher, where they are today. So here we are in the present with more friends and more romance here. It seems real appropriate to me that we're celebrating today at Chelton Baptist Church, where so many important things have happened in the Van Horn family. We 3 kids were baptized here after confessing our dependence on Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior of our lives. Ken married Kathy here. Stephen and I married here in this church. My Anastasia, better known as Stacy, and Philip were both dedicated here. So it just feels like home. And so many of you who are Chelton members, it just feels more like home. And some of you who have come from distance who used to be part of Chelton and, you know, God's happy family. I thank you, Mom and Dad. I'm not going to look at you either because it's hard. For raising us. Thank you for raising us in a home and church where the reality of Jesus is evident, and for pointing your children in that same saving relationship that you both know. I'm very glad that Christianity is not a religion, but rather a relationship. Thanks, Carol. I might need them soon. I thank you for your constant support and sacrifices. My prayer, which I hope you will share with me, all of you, is that Stephen and I will be the kind of parents to Philip and Stacy that you've been to me. I wish you many more happy years of marriage. Keep the friends and romance coming. Love, your Bobby girl. And just a little aside. I just wanted to add, I think it's neat that tomorrow's Mother's Day, and my mom's having a little trouble with her eyes, seeing, but she knows she sees so well with her heart.
Yep,
And I love them both.
that's right. It's great.
Mom and Dad, in nearly 40 years of your 50 years together, I can attest to the good times that we've had as a family. And you've taught us many wonderful things, as Bobby's just touched on, and Stephen has just touched on it a little bit there too. Many wonderful things. Talk about the good life. You created a home where we learned to love the Lord, and that's pretty wonderful. Abe Lincoln once said, "It has been my experience that folks who have no vices have very few virtues." And I'd just like to say the Van Horn family has a good deal of virtue. It took my older sister a little while to get that one. But we have a lot of virtue in the family, and my parents have no vices, and I'm sure they could list a few for my sisters. I don't have any, so I'm sure they could list a lot for a number of us there. family that has had its share of challenging times and difficulties, but it's also had many more wonderful times and wonderful moments as well. And on balance, we're doing pretty good that way. When you're a family, you do know the joy and the happiness along with the faults and the pains caused by each other. But knowing that the good stuff and the bad stuff are part of the whole wonderful package, I can say that it's been my experience that all things, good and bad, have worked together for good in our family. They say you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your relatives. And when I think of Mom and Dad and our whole family, I think of words that my wife and I had sung at our wedding, and words of the famous Huey Lewis, "I'm so happy to be stuck with you." So thank you, Mom and Dad. I love you. It's been wonderful being a family, and we have a wonderful family.
Yeah.
Thank you. Love you. Thank you all of you.
When they decided and had this planning meeting about us all getting up here and talking, I just want you all to know that only the three people in the family were at that meeting. None of us were. We're still all glad to be a part of this. I have been in this family the shortest amount of time, other than the kids. Ken and I have only been married 7 years, so because of that, I don't have as many stories. I'm going to keep this short and sweet, a trait which I did not pick up from the Van Horn family. It is wonderful to have the example of two people who have loved each other consistently for 50 years. I'm very thankful to them for the example they've set and for the example they've set for their son, who I think has learned to love me wonderfully because of the example he's seen in you guys, and I appreciate that. My parents-in-law have been wonderful to me from the day we've been married. I have no complaints. I have no negative stories like Steve. There was only one time that I ever got yelled at, and that was for sitting in Mr. Van Horn's chair. Other than that, from the first day we were married, they consistently told me I was their favorite daughter-in-law. Of course, when I figured out I was the only one, it didn't mean quite as much. But I can sincerely say from the bottom of my heart that you're the best parents-in-law I've ever had.
My name's Dean Buckwalter. I'm married to Carol, eldest daughter. I must confess that I get a little nervous when I'm talking to a group of people like this. As a public school teacher, I am completely unaccustomed to speaking to people who are listening. If you would consider from time to time putting your head down on the table or passing a napkin or something to somebody, I'd really appreciate it. I was the first in-law alien to break into the Van Horn enclave, and I'm proud. It was a tough job. I prepared for it and I worked hard at it. I had a lot of help from who was then my girlfriend, my fiance, and finally my wife. All three of them worked with me, right with me. I concentrated at first on my future mother-in-law. And I tried to listen and pick up the cues as to what I needed to say and what I needed to do to become part of her family. And there were a couple of subtle things. I think she was at first interested in finding out what my religious affiliation was. When she'd look at me and say, "We went to church Sunday," I kind of knew what she was talking about. So finally, after a little historical research, I had the perfect line, and it happens to be true. I said, "I'm a Methodist, but I'm also a would-be Episcopalian." And she said, "Hallelujah, I'm a has-been." And we've been good friends ever since. Dad was tougher. I used to try to do things I thought were considerate, like his mother would come to dinner and then he would take her home after dinner, and if I was ever there, I would ride along for conversation. I don't think he wanted me to know exactly where she lived or how to get home afterwards. The guy turns at every intersection. He can't drive. He does not drive in a straight line. To this day, I don't know if she lived in Chester or Camden. A lot of what happens in the Van Horn household happens at the dinner table. This was different in the Buckwalter household. People disappeared, right? And some of them disappeared during dinner. But at the Van Horn household, you sit around after dinner for a long time, and you talk about mostly the relatives. It was at one of these occasions, just before dinner, that my future wife chose to announce that we were going to be married. And as soon as she did, Dad looked at me, paused a moment, and then said, "Can we eat now?" So I still didn't know. Sitting around that table has become something that I really look forward to. As I said, we didn't do it in our family. Those conversations are wonderful. Any time I spend with these people is wonderful. I realize it more all the time as I've unfortunately gotten kind of discouraged with teaching, because I teach in an area where there are a lot of children from broken homes and not very good situations. And I'm a very lucky person, because my own family was two people who celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. And I have two more people. You know, when you first get married, it feels a little funny calling somebody else mom and dad. And now it's the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah.
Thank you, and I love you.
Great.
Well, did you notice that most everyone brought a piece of paper up so that he or she would know what to say? If I brought a piece of paper up, I couldn't see it without my glasses, because I'm, close to 50 now. I am so proud, Mother and Father, that you are my parents. And I feel so very blessed, as Ken and Bobby have both said, to have been raised in a Christian home. Our church and our church activities were so very important in our lives and our family growing up. And there was a very strong sense of family. I can remember we kids racing each other to the door when Father would be coming home from work or a business trip. And of course, he would barely have a chance to put down his briefcase, let alone take off his hat and coat before we were trying to welcome him. But he would step back and say, wait a minute. Where's your mother? Where's my wife? And of course, Mother would be busy in the kitchen. She might have to stop to turn down a burner or put down the potato peeler and dry her hands. And so it took her a little longer to get to the front door. But she always got the first hug and kiss. And then, of course, we got ours. I can never remember, as I was growing up, my parents having a fight. I can remember going to school and having a girlfriend tell me, whoa, my mom and dad really had a fight last night. And I remember thinking, well, what's wrong with your parents? My parents don't fight. So that you realize that they are human. There would be little glimpses of disagreement from time to time. For instance, Father at the dinner table would make a remark, and Mother would, she'd just look at him. She wouldn't really say anything, but she would kind of glare. We all knew that it was time to change the subject. I suppose that after we were all settled in bed home for us was a haven. It was a safe place from the rest of the world. Father, you taught me so many things, often in the form of a little saying or an expression. For instance, you taught me the 3 C's, so that if I found myself in a sticky situation, I would always remain cool, calm, and collected. You taught me that I could actually bait a fish hook with squid. But on a fishing boat, Father taught me that in order to avoid seasickness, you always gazed out at the horizon. But all the while eating plenty of donuts, in case that technique didn't work, and you did have to, you'd have plenty too. But he comforted me because he said, if you do get seasick, don't worry about it, Carol, because it draws the fish. Now, I have to say that horizon technique is pretty good. I never did get seasick, but we never really caught many fish either. You taught me how to laugh. How about the time we went to Williamsburg? Father has a way of teasing that always made me feel as though we were laughing together. I never felt as though I was being laughed at. That's a gift. In Williamsburg, we were in a very fancy restaurant, and I was guilty of some social faux pas. But I remember Father saying, you know, Carol, if you'd ever get started, we could send you to finishing school. And how about the time, the year it snowed so much, we had to walk to get the Christmas tree? Kenny and Bobby were just little, and so they stayed home with Mother. And it was just Father and I, trudging off through the snow. We got our Christmas tree and all wrapped up with twine and headed off, trudging back home. And as we walked, of course it was cold and our noses were running, and we were sniffing as we walked along. And I remember Father all of a sudden saying, boy, we're a pretty snotty pair. It was so much fun to share a laugh over a naughty word with my father, because of course it was a naughty word. You know, Mother would never allow me to say snotty. Excuse me, Mother. And Father taught me how to drive. You know, at the time, I didn't realize what a big deal it was. Of course, it was a big deal for me. I was 16. It was a rite of passage. I was excited. I was learning how to drive this car. But as I look forward to my own experiences in that area, I absolutely have knots in my stomach. How did you stay so calm? I guess you were practicing your 3 C's? But you taught me to, another expression, expect the unexpected. And I really appreciate the fact that you didn't laugh when I had to come to a complete stop in order to turn on the windshield wipers the first time. And when I got my first job, you taught me how to do my income tax. What fun! I think Father and I are really in the minority. There aren't many people who really enjoy, or get a kick out of doing the income tax. But you taught me to be honest and pay the government every cent it's due, but not 1 penny more. Find those deductions. And so I do. And Mother, well, you had to be mother and father on a lot of occasions when Father was on business trips. I don't know how you did it. Again, there must have been times when you just felt like tearing your hair out. But somehow you always managed to make us feel that everything was just fine. Mother had to handle a lot of things on her own when Father was away on business, including discipline. but the discipline was always administered immediately, because I never heard her say, "Just you wait until your father gets home." She was also very careful how she expressed the consequences for wrongdoing. You know, she never said, "You do that one more time, I'll have to kill you," because she had to carry it out, because she means what she says. But anytime there was discipline necessary, and I know I gave you both bits, it was always backed by love. And I'd like to just share a story with you that I think really illustrates what I'm talking about. We had to be on vacation or a day trip somewhere. I don't remember all the details, just the important ones. But we were waiting for something, a tour, a tram, a bus, and we had apparently just missed one because the waiting area was practically deserted. It was just our family and a father and his little girl. Now, the little girl was mentally retarded. She was not at all pleasant to look at. She kind of drooling a little bit and appeared very awkward. And when she spoke, she had a speech impediment. As a child, I remember feeling very uncomfortable in that situation. And so I positioned myself at the opposite end of the waiting room and tried not to make eye contact, but not Mother. She actually smiled at that little creature, and that was all she needed. Her face just lit up, and the eyes of her father brightened, and she took off talking a blue streak. She was telling stories, she was asking questions, and Mother was responding in a very patient, very caring way. Well, the next thing that happened, she wanted to hold Mother's hand. I remember thinking, well, you know, why can't this father control his child? Why is he letting her bother other people? But Mother never hesitated. She just reached out, took the little girl's hand, and even gave it a little squeeze. Well, then the little girl wanted to kiss my mother. But I cringed even more. I couldn't imagine. But again, Mother leaned right over and offered her cheek. The little girl kissed her, and Mother didn't even wipe off what must have been a very wet, sloppy kiss. Well, the next thing, in her awkward voice, she said, "You kiss me." Again, Mother leaned right over, kissed this little girl. She even gave her a little hug. Well, finally, whatever we were waiting for, it was time. And I probably was the first one out the door. But not before I saw my father put his arm around my mother and say, "I love you, Margie." And I could just hear the pride and the love in his voice. That experience, that incident is so vivid in my memory. And it's had an impact, probably more than I even realize. But I do know that as a teacher, even without children of my own, that experience taught me to look at each individual student as someone's precious child. It also made me realize, although not until many years later, that we grew up with that love. And we didn't even know any better. We just took it for granted. Mother, I know that there are times when you really get upset about things like the dust bunnies under the beds. But I am going to remember the love. Mother, Father, have we would like Jason, Kendra, Jason, Bill. Where is Bella? Okay.
Swing right on in here.
Ready? Go.
We love you.
Thank you so much for indulging us. We feel so glad to have an opportunity to share some of our thoughts with our parents. And we've perhaps taken advantage of you, making you listen. But we thank you again. And we thank you so much for coming and making this time so very, very special. Helping us to honor our parents, helping us to celebrate this very important milestone in their marriage. And we hope that you will just have some more coffee, have some cookies, and visit, enjoy the pictures, and we'll just enjoy some more time together. Thank you so much.